Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today.
Ready to bring your vision to life? At Small Rig, every idea, design, and product is inspired by you, the creator. With our industry-first under co-design mode and the Dream Rig free customization project, we unite with global creators to turn big dreams into reality. Whether it's a cage rig or mount, Small Rig's versatile gear is built to elevate your craft. Small Rig, where your creativity meets our innovation. Go to smallrig.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
BooBaes.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to
BooBaes.
BooBaes. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today I needed to get my vocal warm-ups in.
There you go. Ma.
Red leather, yellow leather. I can't even say that one.
Red rum.
Murder.
Red rum. We are going to be talking and continuing our Chucky month. So we're going to be watching Child's Play 2 today.
Yes.
It's the title. And you guys knew that if you listened to last week's episode, because we covered Child's Play 1. And we gave that movie really high marks. And check out the episode because the movies are pretty fun. This one was I kind of had a blast watching. It was some fun.
There was some, I thought it was a little slower, like more police.
Towards at the beginning of it?
Not police procedural, but it was just a little slower, not as much death. But then at the end, there was a lot. And then the last scene, or in the warehouse.
15 minutes, basically.
In the eyeballs, killing that dude, putting the eyes into his head. I was like, yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
I definitely was I was watching it and I seriously started nodding my head. And I was like, this is awesome.
And
then
speaking of eyes,
it around and stuff too. I liked that as well, knocking Kyle out and stuff. But yes, speaking of the eye, we open with it.
Exactly. And it's pretty cool. I actually really like the opening, how we start with this eye and it comes panning out. And then you can tell they're trying to refurbish essentially Chucky. And you get the title card, Child's Play 2, right over his metal face.
Yeah, which I liked.
Yeah, and the eyes and stuff. So I thought it was a pretty cool opening. And I think that it almost gives Mad Scientist at the beginning vibes because they're reconstructing him. And the company is very much it was all a hoax. They can't prove anything and there's nothing wrong with the doll.
It made me upset that the police officers backed out and they were like, no, never mind. We don't actually believe that a doll did this.
Yeah.
And essentially instituting Karen.
Yeah, literally. They put her in the crazy house.
For poor Andy to go into the foster care system. When his mom is perfectly competent.
The other cops, they just were just but they probably got pressured into probably conforming because nobody believes them,
Yeah. But still, that was just so fucked. I was like, y'all are some pieces of shit. For real.
They do. They did do that. And so unfortunately, for them, as they're putting back together Chucky, things do not go as planned. And also at the same time, we're getting little, like, we're cutting to where Andy is, and Andy is in a center for orphan children, essentially like a foster care system. And he's talking to his, what I would assume is his therapist, right? And so
Yeah.
the therapist is trying to be like, why, what was your bad dream? What was your nightmare about? And Andy's explaining to him, essentially what happened in the first movie, and how Charles Lee Ray entered the doll and became Chucky, and how he had to kill Andy in order to enter his body and not become a doll anymore to return to human form. So, and all while the doctor's just like, "Oh, that's a scary dream," and like Andy's like, "Fuck yeah, like you're telling me, brother." You know,
Yeah.
I like how you can tell Andy is like kind of like it's the same actor. So I love how we're growing up with him a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they
But,
made the first 3 movies, pretty
bop, bop,
close
bop.
back to back.
Yeah,
And
because
then
this one actually
for
came out 2 days I mean, not 2 days, 2 years to the date of the first
yeah,
one, release wise.
and, The Bride of Chucky, I think, came out, like, 8 years after
That's so
the
close.
3rd one. So,
Yeah.
long kind of far off from as compared to these ones.
You mean the third? What do you mean?
The Bride of Chucky came out, like, 8 years after the 3rd one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
is a pretty good break. But even still, like, because those then, like, it was like a break and then Bride of Chucky and then what? Seed of Chucky, I believe? Something like that. Bride of Chucky, Seed of
um,
Chucky.
I don't know.
And then there's another one
There's
after that.
too
Well,
many Chuckies
we're
to keep
but
up
yeah,
with.
I just know that. Oh, okay, yeah, it's the Bride of Chucky, and then it's curse, the Seed of Chucky, and then like the Curse of Chucky or something like that. But anyways, we have Andy. He's of course talking to the shrink. They're trying to essentially gaslight him and like make him believe like that this never really occurred and that he just kind of made it up to be able to process what happened in his life in the first movie. And we're back with the company people at the toy, what's it called, Toy Pals or whatever
Good
factory.
guys.
Good guys. And they are they're trying to put the eyes in, but as they're putting them in, one of the, I don't have his name, but one of the engineers or whatever, roboticists, gets electrocuted and shot and just like gets sent flying across the room.
Yeah,
And Chucky's
which
eyes turn red with like
I thought
electricity.
that was pretty comical.
It
Like,
was funny.
yeah,
Hmm.
that part I was like, "We're
I
not off to a good start,"
I
is what it
expected to
made
see
me.
him get up and have like hair like fried,
Yeah,
Um, and the
but he was all
niece.
bloodied and, like,
Oh yeah,
super dead. So,
for sure. So the
but I
first
it
death
just
of the movie.
yeah, sorry, and it just
No,
made
you're
me be like, "Uh," I don't know. It
good. A
like,
bit
I
like
see what they were
cheapy.
doing, and yeah, it just but, like, him going flying and stuff
Hmm.
just wasn't my favorite.
See,
But
that's how I felt about kind of like Chick in the first movie when she fell out the window. Because I was like, you were like halfway across the room, and like I get the doll like pushed you, but like to go
yeah,
flying halfway through the room and then out the window. But but um but I get it. And then yeah, like you said, it's pretty comical and he's dead, unfortunately. And they're just like they're obviously, the CEO is like, what the fuck? And so he's just like basically putting a pause to everything. And the dude who's under him is really trying to push, for some reason, I don't know why he really wants this doll to just go back out there. But he's just like, what do you want me to do with the doll? And the old guy is like, shove it up your ass or something like that.
yeah. Shove it up your ass.
Hmm.
He said it so nonchalantly too that it was just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. It's like, we're
Um,
done with that. Okay. And then it cuts to our foster parents, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? They're talking to the
Phil and
I
something.
can tell you in a
Laurel.
second. Hmm. Let's see.
I don't know.
Phil and
Laureen.
blah. Joanne. It's Joanne.
Joanne. Oh, I don't know where I was
Yeah.
getting it all from. But
It's the
Acme Joy makes top-of-the-line adult products, provides sex toys like male masturbators, penis pumps, cock rings, anal stimulators, realistic dildos, and sex dolls, etc. Founded in 2011, Acme Joy has long held the belief everyone deserves a better orgasm. Acme Joy prides itself on being able to satisfy a wide range of sexual needs and provide a greater variety of orgasms. It adheres to the idea that everyone deserves a better orgasm. Whether you want to experience surreal oral sex pleasure, true to slight intercourse, or even more intense anal stimulation, Acme Joy will always offer something beyond your imagination. Acme Joy's goal is to provide high-quality products at the optimal prices to every user, as well as superior customer service. Go to acmejoy.com.
At Rolls Rolla, we don't just sell wallpaper, we create cohesive, cozy spaces. Our deep understanding of design means every pattern, color, and texture is carefully chosen to complement your home. Plus, we use advanced technology and water-based inks for vibrant, eco-friendly prints, ensuring a healthier environment. Visit rollsrolla.com to transform your space today. That's ROLLSROLLA.com today.
they're talking to the like counselor lady or whatever she is about
Mhm.
Chucky, I mean not Chucky, Andy's situation. And they're essentially the dad mostly is just kind of like, I don't know if we're like, equipped for his situation, but she's trying to reassure them that he essentially has reintegrated back into, like normal life and he is okay. And all he wants to do is just essentially like get past the trauma.
Yeah.
And
He's ready to
um
move on with his life.
mhm,
Um, and so they end up just sending Andy home with them. And they're like driving in the car. They're asking him, stuff about like, what's your favorite food ever? And he's like, chocolate.
yeah.
And then they're like, besides chocolate.
Mhm.
And he says, well, my mom made me eggs. So I guess I like eggs. And they were like, eggs it is, basically. Um, but then right as they're in the middle of talking, I guess Phil's distracted and a big 18-wheeler
Mhm.
pulls out in front of them. And it just so happens to be um, a good guy's truck
Yeah.
and says like your pal to the end or whatever on it.
I love how it's just like so jarring and it's like the horns going off, it's blaring, and it's just everybody in the car is just like, "Ah," you
Yeah.
know, pretty good.
That's got to be terrifying, almost hitting a semi because you're
Well,
dead.
most certainly. And then let alone it being like the good guys. That's pretty terrific. Not terrific.
Terrific.
Doing. That's pretty
Terrific.
traumatic or horrific. I was trying to say horrific, I guess, and traumatic at the same time for Andy. And then they end up going back to the house, and their house is pretty nice. It looks
The
very
house is
much
real
like
nice.
the times.
It's big.
Super big. And you can tell they're well off. And they kind of allow him to go exploring. And he's doing that throughout the house. And his foster mom, Miss Joanne, ends up like, showing him around. They end up introducing him to Kyle, who is his foster sister, and she also lives there. And there's not much interaction right now, but you can tell
He
she's
does
just like
pick
a little.
up the toy,
Mhm,
or not the toy, the figurine of the little,
mhm.
like, Dutch figurine,
Yeah,
and then
kind of
Phil is like,
foreshadowing.
no, don't touch that, like, we don't play with those things." And then, yeah, so later on, whenever Chucky kills Tommy or whatever with it, that's why.
Mhm. And we can know from this like how much it really meant to them because the mom is like, that meant so much to me. And they
It's been
are
passed
taking
down
him to
through
his room.
generations of her family and stuff. So yeah.
Mhm. Makes sense. And they're getting him to his room, unpacking everything. She's helping him, kind of talking to him. And as they're going through stuff, and he's kind of the whole room's got toys from all these previous kids who've lived there. And he goes to the closet and he sees something and he starts to pull at it. And then unfortunately, a good guy doll falls down.
Yeah.
It's not Chucky, but its name is Tommy. But it's enough to make him go running off. And then the dad, the foster dad, who is just not equipped and should not be fostering children whatsoever, um, does not know how to like console him or even like emotionally make sure that he's okay, even after what he's been through, because he's just like, it's just a doll. Like you need to not.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's also like rule number 2 about this house, like no running.
Yeah. They don't believe him in the
Yeah.
slightest. And so that's making them really harsh with their
Discipline
interactions and
and
discipline with
interaction.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so Tommy falls out of the closet and
Hmm.
we have and then after that, and yeah, when they yell at him and stuff and like no running, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, what else do you expect this kid to do? That's an exact replica of the doll that he is terrified of. Like
Yeah.
dumb. But we leave with the worker, the
The dude
second
from
in
earlier.
command, yeah,
Yeah.
guy from earlier.
I've recognized the actor. He's played by like um
Yeah, I definitely have seen him in something before.
he's like from Once Upon a Time. He played like Hades in that. Man, I don't
Oh, I
know. He played
never
someone
made
else.
it to that far with Hades in there.
His name is Gregory Andrew German. That's not the name I would have gave him.
No,
But oh yeah, he's on Grey's Anatomy and like he was, I guess, on a lot of TV shows.
definitely never
Uh,
watched Grey's Anatomy either. But I've
yeah,
seen him in
but
something. Like I've probably seen him in like commercials of for all these things and stuff.
yeah, or other.
But
I think pretty sure he's been in movies, but yeah, we have all of that happening. We're with him, and he is taking the Chucky doll home with him. He's getting in the car. It's raining. He's driving. He's on the phone with his wife or girlfriend, lover, and they're talking about how like they're about to have like their something anniversary. I don't remember what number.
I
And
think
she's
it's a 2 week.
2 week. Oh God, this is the
Yeah.
comedy. And so they're she's like, are you gonna pick up the vodka? And he's like, oh, yeah, I already got it, but still hasn't, of course. So he has to stop and get it. So as he stops to get that,
It
we
was a
have
really
this.
weird conversation because he was like, "I know what it does to you."
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "Ew."
Yeah, very
I don't
sleazy.
know.
Well, he
Yeah.
obviously wants to get in her pants,
Yeah.
But he stops to buy the vodka, which doesn't go well for him because like the place doesn't take cash and he only has his gold card and he's like so pretentious and he's like that's worth more than like cash or whatever. But at the same time, Chucky, who's in the car, is opened his files and he or took the file with him. I don't know how he had it, but
Yeah,
is
he opened the briefcase.
yeah, and has Andy's information and is called the foster care center and is like, hey, trying to get detail on fucking Andy. And he's pretending to be his uncle. And
Yeah,
then,
he says it's his Uncle Chucky or
yeah,
Charles.
something like that.
And it was
Um,
like, y'all can't put 2 and 2 together."
and also, like, wouldn't they have known if he had next of kin?
Yeah.
Excuse me. But he ends up, then the dude ends up going back to the car because the alarm goes off. Presumably Chucky, I guess, because he's like, I want to get the fuck out of here. And so the dude comes back, and as he gets back into the car, Chucky just like pulls the knife out on him.
A gun,
And
little
the
gun
gun.
arm.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, the gun. And also because that's in the fucking notes. Because I'm like, how the hell is he holding a gun?
Yeah. Well, it was a little tiny it looked like a toy gun.
Right?
And so I was like, I was like, this gun's not going to do anything except for maybe shoot some BBs is what I was thinking. I wasn't really expecting water.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, fucking drive, get me to this place. And the guy's like, okay, whatever you want.
And he gets them there, and continue.
Yeah, and then he's like, please just take whatever you want, but don't shoot me, like don't hurt me. And he was like, boom, you're dead, but sprays him with water. And then he's like, put your hands behind the seat, and like ties him up. And then he's like seeming like he's gonna go. And but he doesn't. He Black Christmas says this situation and puts a bag over his head and chokes him to death. You just see his little feet moving around, and then they just fall still. So
gone. Second kill.
Kills him dead. Yeah, I guess it does move pretty fast, but I guess they just weren't very like
they weren't
gruesome.
Big deaths necessarily. Yeah, and they also the deaths were very fast. Like they would like be like pretty much like 40 seconds, and then it'd be like next thing, like next cut. And yeah, he's out of the picture, and then we have Joanne trying to read a bedtime story to Andy, and trying to nurture him, get him to get ready to go to bed. He is worried, or he's like obviously not okay because the Tommy doll is like in there with them and stuff. And then that's whenever Chucky gets into the house. Chucky gets inside, and then he starts to attack Tommy.
Yeah, with
even though
that
Tommy is
little
inanimate.
Dutch figurine, and because he's like, "Hi, I'm Tommy. Want to play?" And he's like, "I'm Chucky."
And he starts to say, after he hits him, what is he like? He's like, "I want a hug. I want a hug." And I love how Chucky's just like, "Hug this," and just like starts bashing his face in.
Yeah, that was entertaining.
Pretty entertaining. Did we count that as a death?
I guess, yeah. Back to back kills Tommy, because then he goes and he buries Tommy out in the backyard underneath the swing set, and he just is like singing a little song. He seems happy as a clam, just happy as peaches to be burying this little Tommy doll. You know that I had a imaginary friend when I was a kid named Tommy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that we think it was my grandpa because his name was Tom.
Oh, so was it like an old person, or was it like
no? He died when my mom was 11.
Oh, so he was little.
Yeah, so he was young, but I don't know who, like I don't remember this interaction with Tommy, but apparently I had a babysitter, and I like scared her off because I was just sitting there talking to Tommy. Yeah. And she like, my parents came home, like handed her the money, and she like was like, keep it, and like left because she was so scared of me.
Pussy. What bitch. Can't handle shit. Even if you weren't talking to like a ghost, like that's just a kid having an imaginary friend. And even if you were talking to a ghost, she sounds like she's no fun at a party. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. She was like, get me out of here. She was not a fan. But anyways, Tommy, he buries him, and then
buries him, and then they're like, it's the next morning, and the dad finds the statue, broken, and he's getting on to both Kyle and Andy.
Yeah, I almost said Tommy.
There's so many names.
There are a lot of names in this one. But yeah, he gets onto them, and Kyle's like, well, I didn't do it. And Andy's like, well, neither did I. And then they're just like, well, until one of you fesses up, you're both grounded. So they ground them both. And Kyle's like, great, this is exactly how I wanted to spend my day off. And she's
doing
like,
laundry, grounded, and she's smoking her cigarette all up in his face.
Hands it to him. She's like, hold this. And so, of course, he puffs on it. Yeah, and it's like, "What did you think he was gonna?" She turns around and is like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "What did you think he was gonna do?"
She's like, "What's wrong with you? Don't you know these are bad for you?" And of course he's like, "Well, why do you do it?" And she's like, "Well, because I'm like an adult, a grown up." And he's like, "No, you're not."
Yeah, "No, you're not." And she was like, "Well, adults can do bad things to themselves, like, can do bad things if they want to."
Yeah.
Kinda thing, and I was like, "No, you're not." So,
Been
yeah.
a long one. And so that's whenever she like takes it from right and she's like whatever, she's being very elderly sister, like kind of treating him like a little punk. And
Yeah.
then the foster parents right now are talking about him, just so like also as well, like worst foster parents in the world to just be openly shitting and talking about how like what a horrible, or him at least, what the
Yeah.
bad experience he doesn't want this to be, and how he's troubled. And of course, Andy can hear them. And they're mentioning the doll. And so Andy then goes to the Tommy doll and he's like checking the batteries. He's like, "I hate you." The Tommy doll obviously checks out to be normal. So he like takes it and he's basically trying to present to them that he's moving on, that he's okay, that he's going to assimilate, and that they don't have to get rid of him.
Yeah, because he, like, walks back up to them and he's like, "Hello,"
Hmm.
and they're like and he's just holding the doll, and they're like,
Yeah.
hello?" But, yeah, he was trying to prove in his
Um,
own little way.
mhm. And then cut to him and Kyle outside, and they're kind of playing around, they're goofing, hanging out by the swings. And it's actually really sweet that he has someone like this who can like keep him company and like be his friend. And
Yeah.
they're, forming a little bond very quickly. And then the dad, calls them to go inside. And all at the same time, they're like on the swing set, which is over where Chucky had buried Tommy. So it's just like you can tell so like clearly and plainly that there's been a grave dug here. But nobody's asking questions right now.
Yeah,
I guess
that there's,
nobody's
like,
really paying
fresh
attention.
dirt and stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
But, yeah,
And
it just it was, like, surprisingly well flattened, I guess, because it was raining.
maybe.
So, like, had there been a mound, like, I would
Mhm.
have been a little more suspicious, but, like, because of how flat it got, I was like, I guess that's how I rationed it, that, like,
Also, it was,
no
like,
one was
perfectly, like,
happening.
square, like,
Yeah.
rectangular. Um, but, we have then the dad calling them for supper, so they need to go in for dinner, and then now it's nighttime, and, nighttime means the freaks come out because that's Chucky's up.
Chucky is up, and, yeah, he's got Andy all, like,
Bound
tied
and
up.
gagged,
Yeah, got a fucking sock in his mouth and
literally.
like, "I'm gonna kill you," and starts, like,
Uh-huh.
chanting and stuff, but then they hear a noise at the window,
Mhm.
and it's Kyle sneaking back in from going out,
Mhm.
and so Chucky stops and he's like, "I'll get you next time," basically,
Yeah.
um, and like Kyle
He just
gets in and she's like, "What the hell?" But, like, by that point, like, too much commotion has happened and the parents come in
yeah.
and they're like, "Why would you, like, tie him up?" And she's like, "I didn't do this." And she, like, unties one of Andy's arms and he's like, "It's fucking Chucky." He didn't say
Yeah.
that, but he, like, is like, "I hate him," and punches
Yeah.
him in the face off the bed, which I was like, "Hell yeah, get him." But
And then they're all like freaking out and they're all like, "What the hell?" And obviously, like he didn't do that to himself, but like it's not giving that Kyle did it either. So they're just like, "Well, this is some fucked up stuff."
this
And
is
so
real
then,
weird.
yeah, exactly. And then that's whenever we have them like the dad doesn't believe Andy at all that it's, Chucky obviously doing this stuff. So he grabs the doll in anger and he takes it. He's going downstairs and he's like, "Look, I'm going to get rid of it." Kind of almost, consoling Andy. But then he's like, just chunks him down into the basement.
Yeah.
Um, which obviously doesn't get rid of him. And when he gets down there and they close the door, he's bleeding. So we know now that Chucky is turning back to human form again in the form of the doll. So this is bad because he doesn't want to get stuck in the body of the doll.
And so now he's on a time crunch trying to get stuff done quickly. And then we flash to basically Andy being at school after this, or we get a little montage, I think, of Chucky like looking through some papers and going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And then Andy's at school and he's like sitting there, just minding his own business, listening to the teacher, but the fucking kid behind him flicks his ear and it makes him speak up. So then the teacher gets on to Andy and is like, she's being, I guess it was the 80s or 90s. So like a little bit more like the shit flew, like, and corporal punishment was a thing. Like I remember having to bring home the papers saying like, we're allowed to beat your child and stuff. And my parents always signed it. They were like, yeah, smack the shit out of her. We do it too. No, I'm not kidding, but
we're grown.
But we're grown now. So, but they leave the Andy's just like it, like he tries to stand up for himself, and then she's like, meh, meh.
Yeah, she shuts him down, and she's basically making him just seem like he's a troublemaker, which he is not, and like he's causing issues, which he's not really, because the boy was picking on him. I love how he said, "Get lost, microchip." And then we have her essentially putting him in timeout
because she finds
his homework.
Paper, and it says "fuck you, bitch" on it, and so she gets really mad, and then she walks over to him. He was looking through a cabinet, finds Chucky in there, and is like, spook. And he's like freaking out.
But she comes up right up behind him real fast.
Yeah, and basically doesn't give him like time to like focus on that. And then she's like, why would you write this? And he's like, I didn't write this. And then she like yanking him around by the arm and like throws him into a desk and then like slams his head down. Maybe it wasn't that dramatic, but it felt like I was like, girl, get your hands off of him is all I could think during this scene.
Ready for your next adventure? KLM Royal Dutch Airlines brings you Real Deal Days, your chance to uncover real adventures and create real memories. Taste the real Amsterdam, explore the real Barcelona, and discover the real Johannesburg, along with many more destinations around the world. Secure your real deal today and seize the moment with KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. Restrictions apply. See terms and conditions at klm.com.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Definitely a different time. And so she's disciplining him, and he is in this like timeout period while everyone else is outside. I'm assuming like at recess or something, playing around, or at a different like study hall. And so he's just there, and he's kind of like, he's weary because he knows that Chucky is around. And so he kind of goes looking for him. He ends up leaving the room. And so that's whenever what's her face like comes back into the room, the teacher, Mrs. Kettlewell. and she's looking for him, and she's going through the room, and she's goes to that closet where like they have games and balls and all kinds of like sports and utilities, and she's looking for him, calling out for Andy. The whole time it's very suspenseful, kind of like how the first one and this one, there's a lot of moments where we're just kind of like building the tension, and like, is he gonna come out, is he not? A lot of jump scares that aren't really, him, fake outs. And yeah, essentially I love how the ball like hits her back, and then she like tries to put it up, and then he just like stabs her in the like lungs or chest with the ball pumper
Yeah, and some
inflator.
sort of inflator, and
Yeah.
stabs her, and then she, of course, falls back very dramatically onto
Hmm.
the tables. It goes into, like, low-key slow-mo,
Hmm.
and then, she hits the ground, and then Chucky comes out, and she's like, "A doll?"
Yeah.
And then he just starts killing her with a big ruler. I mean, I imagine she was probably already gonna die from the air pump being put into her,
Yeah.
like, chest cavity, but yeah, now he just starts beating the shit out of her with a ruler, and I was like, "Why are no police
Nobody.
officers involved in any of
Or
this?"
at this point, maybe because they knew that like in the first one, essentially, like they weren't of any use then. So what would they do? And then maybe
Yeah, it
too,
just made it a little hard for me to believe.
and then maybe as well because like nobody in this one ever believed or called the police, I guess. But we also never saw necessarily any of the aftermaths of any of these,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
right?
assuming the police were called. I just was like, how come we didn't see
See
any
it.
of it, considering
Yeah.
how police heavy the first one was?
No, very much so.
So,
This
like,
one's
for there
very
to
much.
be no police in this one, I was like, oh,
Mhm. Like anywhere.
yeah,
And so then,
except for when Phil dies.
yeah, and then he's killed. She is killed, obviously, with the ruler off screen. And then we have him getting home, and he is in trouble because the teacher, had called earlier about what had happened and everything. And so he's explaining once again that it was Chucky that went to the school and that, like, basically was ruining his fucking life.
I
And
also think I think he got there, like, way but ahead of schedule, like,
oh
before
yeah,
he was supposed to get home, and they're
that's
like,
right.
"Why are
Yeah,
you here?" And he was like, Chucky was at school, so I crawled out the window and I ran."
yeah,
So, I think they're also like,
that's right.
"What the fuck are you doing home right now?"
And the dad is once again is just a bit insensitive, and he's just like, look, and he takes him down to the basement and he shows him that Chucky has been downstairs the whole time, which he was, but also he wasn't. So we know that Chucky went, left, came back, and all to make it seem like Andy is basically going crazy,
Yeah.
and so they lose trust in him.
Yeah, exactly, and so sorry, I did
But
not sleep
they're
well that
arguing over
at
him.
all.
It's okay.
Um,
No, it's the time change. It's like I've been
yeah,
so sleepy all day.
but yeah, the parents, they're Jo her name's Joanne
Hmm.
and Phil are arguing about Andy, and, of course, he's only, like, 2 doors down, like, he can hear them, and
Mhm.
or maybe even 1 door down. He's just, like, in the next room, and they're, like, kind of screaming, so
Yeah.
he's, of course, listening, and then Kyle comes in and is like, "Hey, let's go, like, do something else," like,
Mhm. She's
just
trying to
trying
soothe
to
him.
distract him and soothe them, yeah, and then we flash to Andy getting up, and he is getting the little turkey
Turkey
carver thing,
Mhm.
little electric knife, and he's, like, ready to go, and he's like, "I'm taking things into my own hands, gonna find Chucky instead of waiting for him to come to me."
Yeah, which, is good for him, it's about damn time, honestly, but also not when you're, like, 8 and you have a turkey carver. So, He goes to the basement, and was it around Thanksgiving? Because also, who just has a turkey carver just like out and about?
Yeah. I
Usually,
mean,
those are kind of
they
like
didn't
stored up until it's the time to use it.
I mean, maybe she had a ham or something she needed or like a
Maybe
roast beef or something that she needed to cut open,
they
slice.
do seem pretty fancy, pretty bougie.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he ends up going downstairs, pretty eerie because like he's going through the stairs of the basement, and I was like, oh dang, he's about to get like pushed off, or he's gonna slip, and like the knife's gonna stab him or something. Um,
Yeah, it was very suspenseful.
yeah, and he gets down there and he's looking around for Chucky, and this whole time we get like a 5 minute scene of him basically looking around the basement. Same thing with the lady, the teacher, Mrs. Kettlewell, looking for Chucky, and he's not coming out. And he's also just kind of fucking with him, kind of
Yeah,
waiting for the right moment.
'cause he,
And
like, spins the wheel. It looks like a ship wheel or
that
something.
like pops into him or something.
Yeah, and he, like, spins it and it makes sound, so then Andy's like, "What was that?" And, like,
Mm-hmm.
looks over his shoulder and stuff, and then, yeah, then there's, like, those buoys that,
The
like,
buoy, that's
smack
what it
him
was.
in the
Yeah.
face and stuff. They had such an odd collection of things down there, like, they had a smoking statue, that Native American, like, smoking statue down
Hmm.
there, and then they had, like, all that ship stuff, regalia, and I don't know, it just was like,
Yeah, they seem to
"What?"
be collectors. Maybe
Yeah,
that's it. And so they are he's down there and he gets attacked by Chucky, obviously, because Chucky eventually jumps out and starts attacking him.
I
And
love every time Chucky's attacks someone, his little feet are just going
yeah,
crazy.
he's
He's
just
like, "Ah!"
yeah, he's
It
like kicking
cracks
them
me up.
basically.
Yeah,
Um
just watching, like, how futile it was, basically.
and he's trying to attack uh Andy and is not having much luck because Andy's kind of holding his own.
Yeah,
Excuse me. And then he ends up being able to get the turkey cutter and like kind of put it onto Chucky. I don't think he necessarily cuts him up or anything, but he's able to get him off. But at this point, the dad, who was upstairs watching TV with Joanne, goes downstairs because he hears a commotion. And he goes down and he's like, what the fuck is going on? So as he's going downstairs, Chucky grabs this like crowbar looking thing. I think it's crowbar. And he makes the dad like fall off the stairs, essentially off the side, but he's kind of dangling. And then
yeah,
finally, the dad sees that Chucky is alive, and Chucky's like, "Hey, Phil, how's it hanging?" And just lets him go. So the dad unfortunately falls and like breaks his neck and dies from the fall. So
yeah,
pretty gnarly. And then of course the mom comes down and Kyle, and they're like freaking out, and she thinks that Andy, of course, this little boy had something to do with it. I'm like, he's little. I guess little kids can kill people, but like, I'm just like,
yeah,
dude, Phil was at the top, Andy was already at the bottom.
like, why couldn't it have just been an accident? Um,
Yeah, exactly that. She was already ready to like pin it on him.
she was like, "Get away from me." And
Hmm.
it's like, "Bitch, he didn't do nothing." So, that was pretty dumb, but yeah, they start, we get, like, a scene of L Lau Joanne, like, packing up his things, and Kyle's kinda there comforting her, and Joanne's like, "Why didn't I listen to him? I should just listen to him, and, like, none of this would have happened," kinda thing. So, like, and Kyle's like, "It's not your fault, that that this happened. It's not really anyone's fault." Or I don't think she said that. I just wanted her to say that, but she didn't. She did say
Hmm.
it's not your fault. Um, and then they basically are taking him. They pack up all of his things and they bring it downstairs and they are like taking him back to the center.
Hmm.
And
I'm sorry.
are
Do you
they
hear that?
inside the
Is
yeah.
that no? They're literally like right. Sorry. Hold on.
But they're
Okay,
taking
so
him back to the center, and as he's leaving, he like warns Kyle, and he's like, Chucky's still here, like get rid of him. And so Kyle kind of like, I feel like reluctantly listens to him and is like, well, I might as well just in case. So she takes
mhm.
this doll, puts it in the trash, and
Just kind of chilling, lights her little cigarette.
yeah.
Hmm. And then she's kind of just there smoking her cigarette on the swing. And that's whenever she notices beneath her that the dirt was like, pretty, fresh. And so she
Killed.
notices that. She notices that the little Tommy doll leg is sticking out of the ground. And so she pulls it out. She's like, huh, that's weird. So then she looks back at the dumpster and she goes back to the dumpster. And when she opens it up, Chucky is no longer there. So she's like, even weirder. So she goes to go get some like weapons, a knife, and then she goes back inside. And as she's going through the house, she's looking for Chucky, and he has like, we see like the yarn ball is like, hanging down the stairs, kind of unraveled as she's walking up, and a lot, like once again, another 5 minutes of like, suspense. And where is he? And then finally, we get to one of the bedrooms, and we see that unfortunately Joanne has been murdered off screen.
Yeah.
And
Because you could hear all the while, like as Kyle's heading up the stairs, you can hear this tick, 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 tick
mhm,
happening. And it's like, I was like, what the fuck is that sound? I thought I
mhm.
was going crazy because like nothing was really coming of it
Yeah,
and then then it kind of went away and then it started growing louder again. And then once they got in the room and like it was really loud, and then like you see her sewing machine still going, I was like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah.
That's what
Good
it
payoff.
was. Yeah.
And so she's like obviously freaked out because, the mom's dead. And so at the same time, Charlie, I was about to say Charlie, Chucky has the best timing as always and jumps out and tries to attack her. And
From
is,
under the sheets. He was like hiding on
mhm,
the sheets, and she, of course, like falls backwards in shock when she pulls Joanne's body around and like sits on the bed, and then Chucky's like, "Wah!" from
mhm,
behind her.
and is just going full on vicious attack mode on her. And then that's whenever she ends up, uh, oh, I got lost on my notes there. My bad. Yeah, it's Kyle versus Chucky, and then she ends up getting her to get her in the car, and she's driving him to go to the center to go get what's his face, Andy.
Andy.
They're
Yeah.
talking about it, and he's like basically wanting her to get there fast, but she's like, no, it's going to take time for me to get there.
Yep, and but she listens to him, like starts going faster, and they get pulled over.
Hmm.
And the cop is like talking to them, and he's like, "Hey, is that one of those good guy dolls?"
Hmm.
And he was like, "Hey, little buddy, like say something." And he's like, "Hi, I'm Chucky." Not even in like the little kid voice. It was like
Not
full
even.
on Brad Dourif voice, and
Hmm.
uh, he was just like, "Hi, I'm Chucky." And then he all of a sudden starts bleeding from the nose, right?
He starts like having a little nosebleed, and that's whenever the cop is like, "What the heck is that?" And Kyle's like, "Oh yeah, these newer models they actually bleed or something like that."
Yeah, she was like, "You've seen a doll that pees, now and this one bleeds." And
Yeah,
which I had a doll when I was a kid that peed and pooped.
yeah, yeah. I remember those.
Yeah.
I think
Well, I guess
bleeding is
I
the
didn't
first one.
have it. The school had it, and I played with it
Oh,
at school.
okay. That's cute. I remember those. Um, they were trying to groom you into becoming a housewife.
A little mom
Yeah. And so
at
that's whenever
6
we
years
have
old.
they end up getting into a kerfuffle, essentially,
Kerfuffle.
and she essentially gets him to crash out of the window in the midst of their kerfuffle. And as he's out, like then like on the hood of the car, she like breaks and he goes flying. And she tries to pin him, but she's not able to. And he kind of gets away. And as she's like, looking outside for him, he like comes up to her with a knife and he's like, "Playtime's over." And
Yeah.
so we cut to are now foster care center where all the kiddos are. And I thought like, oh, okay. I thought this was going to end up being like where the third act, the final act was going to be, to be honest. But
Yeah,
no, we were surprised.
not what happened. But yeah, there were also going back just a little bit,
We're
watching
kind of
on
rusty. Okay.
Amazon Prime.
Mhm.
They have little like fun facts, kind of basically if you ever like pause the screen and stuff. And I noticed this while I was watching the first one too. But the
Mhm.
first one and this one, especially during this car chase or the car scene where she's like throwing him all around, there's a bunch of continuity errors.
Oh, okay.
Like at one point, the screen was like shattered and then it was completely fine, and other things like that. There's just a whole bunch of continuity errors in these films.
No, I can imagine. I don't think they were like filmed, with the biggest of budgets or stuff like that. So, but even then, like, I wonder, huh? Maybe they just didn't care. They're like,
Yeah.
it's
They're
it's a
like,
Chucky
oh,
movie.
we've already shot that and we're not doing it again.
Yeah. But we have all of that happen, and now we're at the center, and Kyle shows up and pulls the fire alarm because now all the kiddos and everybody has to get out because the fire alarm's going on. And she has Chucky and the I don't remember her name, but the kind of counselor lady
Yeah,
who
the
was there to
headmistress.
the headmistress. She's looking at Kyle like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Also with the doll, and she's like, "You did this, didn't you?" And so then Kyle's like, "Chucky did it," and they end up taking. She ends up taking them into like the side, like in the office, her office, and so she's trying to confront them essentially, and like why she would do this and stuff like that. And she grabs the doll, and
Yeah, she
Chucky's
like
like,
rips the doll out of Kyle's
mhm,
hand.
"Yeah."
And so it was like, I was like, bitch, that's not your doll. Like,
Yeah, and she's trying to be
but
like, "This isn't real," and then he just looks at her, and I love how I don't remember what he says,
I
to
don't
be honest.
remember what he says either, but like, get a load of this, basically,
And
and then
stabs
stabs
her.
her. And then she
Mhm,
falls back. And I really enjoyed this scene too, because she falls back onto the copier and
yeah,
like Xeroxes her face as she's
mhm.
dying. And she falls over, and then just like sheets and
Copies.
sheets copies of these copies are just falling onto her face. And I was like,
I
nice.
thought it was pretty iconic, yeah. That was
Yeah,
cool, well,
I
especially
thought that
her,
was
like
good.
it had to have been, like, it's well choreographed because even, like, he stabs her, and then her whole, like, her whole, like, like, falling onto
To
it, and
fall
then, like
onto it, yeah.
mhm. But, yeah, Xerox her face, and obviously horrific. Horrific, horrific, horrific. Andy and Kyle are like, ah, and so then we have once again another kerfuffle, and there's a lot going on, and then Andy ends up
Suki's
like,
like biting my cord.
oh, I'm sorry, I don't hear anything or anything.
Okay, good. She's
Yeah,
like eating it though.
uh,
So I'm like,
maybe
please
not good.
don't get electrocuted and die.
Um, he ends up Chucky ends up getting Andy and is like forcing him essentially to like do what he wants, and he gets him to go outside and then go into a truck. And Kyle is following them, and she sees this and she goes after them. She gets in her car and she's following, and as she's behind them, what he like flips her off. She's trying to make
Yeah,
the truck stop, but he's not
which
stopping.
was funny because it was his
I
little
thought it
finger
was
and
funny
he's like,
too.
"Eep."
Yeah, both of
And
them. And
then
then,
later on when she flips him off, I was like,
yeah,
nice.
it's good. And so then she's able to stop the truck because she basically almost kills herself by, stopping right in front of it.
Yeah.
And Andy and Chucky are now gone. How they hopped off, I do not know.
They
I
must
guess
have
it
hopped
was
out
that.
while he was
It was like
driving
in
pretty
motion.
fast too. Yeah, and they must have
Yeah.
hopped off when it was in motion.
And so he's got it stopped, and the truck driver is like going off on Kyle, and she just like leaves him as he's calling her bitch, chasing after them, and we end up in the factory, the Play Pal Toys factory. And we're inside, and it becomes basically essentially kind of like a more of a maze of good guy dolls, and they're trying to get through it. And all this is going on. Chucky arrives, obviously, and he's, after them. And he ends up getting a hold of Andy, and he tries to perform the ritual on Andy. It happens
Yeah,
pretty
because
fast.
he doesn't he like knock him out with a knife
Yeah, that's right. He knocks him out.
and
Yeah,
then is like
trying to perform it. And
performs
at
the
this point, I'm trying to
ritual.
remember where Kyle's at. Is she just looking for an exit? Oh, she hadn't
She's
even arrived yet. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, she's like walking through the factory because she
trying to get to
hears
him.
him at one point, but it's like I kept expecting because she was in there, and so I kept expecting her to like walk up and kick him as he was talking. But I
Yeah.
guess she couldn't find him in the midst of everything. And so, but he's trying to perform this ritual, and it's looking like it's gonna work. Like all the thunder clouds and everything keep rolling in, and
Hmm.
like there's like a storm, and he's getting real intense about it. But then nothing happens, and no lightning strikes. Like the door or the storm just
Yeah,
like
blows
backs
over.
off,
Because
and
remember in the first one, whenever he did it, like there was an explosion in the toy store.
yeah, the lightning struck and it caused
Hmm. Hmm.
everything. And this one, that
Yeah.
didn't happen. And
Yeah.
so then he was like, "What the fuck? Like, I'm trapped in this doll body." And he was
Yeah.
so mad. But then then I think Andy starts running and Kyle's like, "Come here." And they like find
Hmm.
each other. And but then they like kind of stop because I think Andy got a little bit of blood on his face from Chucky bleeding on him. And she was
Hmm.
kind of like looking at him like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Bitch, you gotta run. It don't matter if he's got a little cut on his face. Like, we
Literally.
gotta get out of here."
And so they are trying to get out, but all the while, like we said earlier, it's a kind of a maze of toys, and they for some reason can't find their way out because for some reason the factory workers who made this literally trapped themselves into a maze. I don't understand. But also that
Yeah.
hour, so it does kind of make
I
sense that
know,
things are
like the fact
locked
that
and
she came to a dead end, I was like,
yeah, it was weird.
"What?"
Doesn't make sense. And so we have logistically it just doesn't them trying to get through. Then thankfully at one point they end up like getting the going through a conveyor belt, right? Oh my bad, no, yeah, because she sees like this conveyor belt thing, which also is like I remember writing down in my notes like Andy looking at her like she's dumb because she was like, let's go through here, and he's like, okay.
Seems like a bad idea. And
Yeah.
also, I was like, "Why is this conveyor belt running with no supervision at
Mhm.
all?"
Yeah, all of it. um and we have them going through this little like conveyor belt like cage thing almost, and they're trying to get through, and once they get all the way to the end we get a jump scare because Chucky comes out and he starts attacking Andy and he's trying to get him, but thankfully Kyle, who has been honestly just coming through this entire movie like
Yeah.
solid, solid, the only person who to ever honestly have Andy's back this much, like his own mom didn't even have his back this much. um
Yeah.
And so she's able to like
Unfortunately, I feel like Kyle's seen some shit. So
oh
she was
yeah,
just like, yeah.
she was ready, survival mode. She was able to close like this thing on Chuck's hand, and so he's stuck as they walk and run off, not walk and run off. And he just is really determined to get Andy. He's really pissed off. So he rips off his own hand. And I like
Yep.
the effects because it was pretty cool because you saw like it looked like he was human. He had blood and everything and like,
And like
cuts coming
sinews
out.
and yeah, like
Hmm.
little string like
Vein looking
tendons and
things.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
all ripped out. And it was pretty gnarly. I was like, "Okay, cool." And then they get out through that thing, and then he goes and he like it looked so nasty, but he like takes the knife that he had
Yeah.
and like shoves it into his arm and then like tapes around it or something. And he's like, "I
Yeah.
could get used to this," or something like that.
got a knife for a hand, all at the same time. They are trying to get through this other conveyor belt, the same one from the beginning that puts eyes into the dolls.
Yeah.
And Kyle gets through it pretty easily, and then she's trying to coach Andy through it. And as he gets through it, and they get to the other side, they realize that they still cannot get out through a door that says exit, a door that says exit. And
Yeah.
so, and alarms start going off. I think at this point they start to trip off alarms or something because the dude in like the security area is like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, because they
The
messed the
conveyor
conveyor
belt.
belt up, and so, like, dolls
Right.
started piling up, so he was, like, at the eyeball station, and so then he was going to go fix it,
Hmm.
and he's laying down, and I was like, "Ooh, I can see what's gonna happen," and sure enough, he's laying there, and all of a sudden the machine like starts working and or Chucky comes
Yeah.
up, right? And like
Yeah.
is like kind of slits his throat or something,
Hmm.
or like stabs him a little
He
bit,
stabs
and
him.
then
Yeah.
he falls back, and then he fixed the machine so the eyeballs start going down and it shoves the toy eyeballs into his sockets,
Yeah.
and then he's like dead because he's just got his eyeballs punched out.
Which
Which,
would that kill somebody?
well, I feel like in conjunction with the stab wound he already had from Chucky,
Mm.
probably, because he kinda stabbed him in, like, the jugular.
Yeah, he would bleed out.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, unalived, that dude is no longer with us,
Yep.
and his body gets like taken by the machine, and then he basically becomes like a door from Monsters Inc. just getting thrown around like a piece of meat.
Yeah.
Um, and then we have uh, Kyle and Andy, and they basically have because Chucky, they're all coming out by that machine that puts the I don't know what to call it, like a doll maker machine.
Yeah, that, like, assembles the main part of the body, like, puts the limbs and stuff on,
To the
so
torso
that
and
way
everything.
yeah.
Mhm. And so they're all getting close and near this machine, and so they're able to get, I think it was what happened, I think I was taking a note or I was doing something at this time, but somehow they're
Um,
able to, like, get him to get into the machine.
yeah, they, like he gets, like, fused onto the conveyor belt somehow, and, like, he goes in,
Mhm,
and then he's like, "No, no," and
mm.
it goes off because we saw it before. We saw another doll, like, it ended up going backwards, and a doll that had just come out went back in, and then it came out, like, all deformed and, like, with arms
Mm,
growing out of its
mhm.
head and stuff, like, very like you have in your notes here, Monstra
Those are Sue.
Sue,
Mhm.
just, like, body parts coming out where they're not supposed to be and stuff, and, so but then that ends up happening to Chucky, and I thought it was gonna, like, low key end here, um,
Mhm.
but I
There's so
should have
many
known
moments.
better,
Yeah.
like, but he, like,
He
goes in the
doesn't die.
machine, and he doesn't die, he comes back out, and he's looking real rough, and you kinda think he's dead because then they're like, "Okay, well, time to go," and they're, like, making their way downtown, they're not walking very fast, and they, like, get somewhere, and then doesn't isn't this where she gets fucking smacked by the dude?
Yeah, she does, and then it gets, like, thrown onto the conveyor belt.
Yeah,
There's so much happening.
it was wild when
The
I was like,
last
"Whoa, what the
The
hell?"
last 20 minutes of this film are very like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she gets smacked onto the conveyor belt, and then he comes out and he's like trying to attack Andy, and he's like somehow got himself on like this little box with wheels. I don't even know what
Yeah,
I was
he's
looking at.
like I think he couldn't, like, walk anymore, so he was,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
rolling himself along with that,
yeah,
and then he's like, "I'm gonna cut your legs off."
yeah.
And he, like, stabs at Andy's legs, but Andy moves just in time, and then his, like, knife
The
hand
knife gets
gets
stuck.
stuck,
Yeah,
and what was that? Like a
it was like
heater of some sorts? Like, what's that word
yeah.
that starts with a C?
convection. I don't know. A
Convection oven.
convector, converter, conveyor. No, it looked like, like the like your blow dryer and how it has the back end and it has those
But with
things that
like
are
the
like,
coils.
yeah,
Yeah.
it looked like that kind of ish, and he gets his hand knife stuck in between the metal plates
Yeah.
essentially. And then he can't move, and then at this point, is it hot wax? Is that what that was? Like the wax that makes the dolls, the plastic, or
I'm guessing that's what it was, because
it's
I
like
was
hot
like,
plastic.
it's not water, but yeah, like melted plastic is what I just assumed it was. I was like, what is this?
And he unleashes all of this goop onto Chucky, and you know, Chucky's getting blasted, like slimed, like it's a Nickelodeon special back
Yep.
in the '90s, and that's
My
whenever.
friend was on that.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I wish I would have been
Ryan.
on there. I wanted to. And so then Kyle, he saves Kyle. They're able to get back together, and then I love how it's just like, look, let's just go. All right, we're done. Because she's like looking at the what's left of him, and she's like, "What did you do to him?" Like, "Oh my goodness, like good job," essentially. And then he comes back to life because Chucky doesn't die, not looking like a blob. He's like somehow perfectly, like he's like souped up Chucky almost.
Yeah,
Um,
with like
um,
new skin basically
yeah,
formed over him, and he looks very um like Hills Have Eyes people.
yeah, like the House of Wax almost, like just covered in
Yeah.
it. And then
And
she's able to stick, I guess, a helium or an air tank, something in him, an air.
yeah, I thought it was an
Oh,
electrical cord at first until his head just starts going, "Mm."
yeah, same. He looks like there used to be this animation or cartoon, but it was like claymation of like Nickelodeon or some show back in the day, and they all looked like that. They were like,
Oh,
and their lips were
real
like,
big head. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah. It
hmm
also kinda reminded me of Garbage Pail Kids instead of
I don't know
Cabbage
what that
Patch
is.
Kids, there's the Garbage Pail Kids.
I'll look it
Um,
up.
yeah, it kinda reminded me of that. Like, there's some that have big heads and stuff like that.
What is that? Is those a thing?
Garbage Pail Kids, yeah. You
They
could
look kind of
collect, like,
scary.
cards. They are kinda scary.
They're like taco heads and like.
Like,
Anyways, I
yeah.
see what you mean.
I
I see
have
what you mean.
I have little cards of them that I used to hand out in, like,
Yeah,
sloppy
there's
seconds
cards.
orders. Yeah.
That's
So,
cute.
anyways,
Okay, yeah,
but
they're
he
doing
blows
all
his head
that.
up, it explodes, and then they, like,
The
are
most
walking
like
out and they're, yeah, talking like, "Where are we gonna go?" "I don't know."
we're going
"How did we get
home.
there?" And yeah, it's like, "We're going home." And then you just get the little good guy doll
Jingle.
sign waving
Mhm.
over like, "Bye-bye now."
Mhm.
And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of Child's Play 2.
Child's Play 2. Yep. It, was directed by someone else this time, right? John Lafia?
John Lafia, yeah, directed by John Lafia, who was a friend of Don Mancini. And I believe Don chose John because in the first movie, unfortunately, I think he had some issues with the first director. Um, and so, or was it him? I don't know. Was it some? Hold on. Maybe am I thinking wrong? I don't know where I read that or I saw that. Because now,
Oh, one of my fun facts kinda answers something.
give it to me.
Don Mancini stated that in an early draft of his script, the film was set during the Christmas season. This would have explained why so many good guy dolls were in the factory during the finale, but also why she had a carving knife out.
That helps. That literally explains so much. Yeah, there. Tom Holland is the director of not that Tom Holland, but is the director
Yeah,
of the first one, and so I think they had beef, and so that's why he chose a different person. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, but then also I'm looking at the rest of them, and he literally has a different director for each movie until we get to Seed of Chucky, and then he just takes over the role of directing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the movie, you guys. I'll start us off with the Boo ratings. I think that for a sequel, it's pretty good. It does this what a sequel does. It kind of to me upped the ante. We saw Chucky a bit more in this one. We saw him kind of, running around and doing all the things. Um, I don't think we got any POV shots, did we? Like how we did in the first one?
No,
Or not?
not like
Uh,
that. No.
no, yeah, which I missed. I kind of missed, but also we know what he looks like and what he does. So, um, kind of, I feel like that was in the first movie more kind of because we were viewing through the lens of him because he wasn't yet like a visible thing because everybody's like, it's not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, maybe also in this one, the lack of police is kind of better for it because the police in the first one kind of almost made it maybe where it would give it too much like they could answer too much or like stop it or like maybe if there were police us as an audience would be like why aren't the police stopping this kind of like in the first one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just be kind of like maybe they just didn't want to do that again.
Sorry.
It's okay. Let it out.
Darn.
Overall though I really thought it was like really well paced to me. I thought that it was funny. I don't know if they were trying to be, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And like I liked the special effects, especially when the practical effects and everything when he like rips his hand off and you just see it and it's just like detaching. You see it like ripping. And I thought that the acting was I mean, it was all pretty believable, I guess, for the most part the parents and even Andy did pretty good. I feel like his acting was a bit more detached from this one as it was from this first one, or like maybe it just wasn't. They didn't write him a lot of material essentially because
Yeah.
he didn't have too many heavy parts in this one. Um,
No, he felt almost like a completely different kid.
yeah, I would say that as well, and almost as if like what happened in the first one, like didn't
I think he was a shell of himself, like he was traumatized.
literally, yeah. Like
So
he didn't even act
in
out or
other
anything.
sense, he did a fantastic job acting again as if he was a traumatized child.
That's true. Um, uh, s- yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like it's a solid sequel. Um, maybe it's a bit too jokey, maybe. And they did pay a lot of attention on Chucky himself. So a lot of the times I'm really looking at him like this really is just a doll. Like he's just a doll. Because you
Yeah.
see him so much more in this movie. But I would honestly give it like a 4
Yeah.
in terms of being a sequel, and, like, I was kind of expecting it to be pretty, like,
Bad.
bad, honestly,
Yeah.
but it wasn't that bad, and I kinda liked that it was a different setting. It's kinda more focusing him in the house and stuff, and him at, these like, the foster center and then the factory. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought all the settings were pretty interesting. Um, and yeah, it seemed very natural as well, following along like what would have naturally happened to a kid after what happened in the first one. He would get placed in the foster care system, like, and then, yada yada. Because I couldn't imagine that what if they did make Child's Play 2 and it's like him and his mom again, and then
Yeah.
they're going through that again. So essentially they probably didn't do that because it's the same movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead with your fun fact.
One of the fun facts is basically why so it says there were many rumors about why Catherine Hicks didn't reprise her role as Karen Barkley in the sequel, with the popular being that she was pregnant by her husband Kevin Yeager, who operated the animatronic Chucky doll.
Oh,
But
okay.
the simple fact was that the director John Lafia wanted to take the story in a new direction. a direction that didn't include her character aside from an unfilmed opening courtroom scene that had her be sent to the mental institution. Despite not reprising her role, she was constantly on set for the sequel due to visit her husband.
That's cool.
Yeah. The original script had an opening scene of a court hearing dealing with the events of the previous film with Karen Barclay and Mike Norris defending Andy. Oh, so Mike Norris was defending Andy. While the remains of Chucky's burned body are stored in an evidence locker before being taken by the executives of the Play Pals company to rebuild it. Catherine Hicks was to reprise her role of Karen Barclay in the sequence, but it was cut before filming began. Elements of this scene appeared in a similar courtroom scene in Curse of Chucky 2013, and the evidence locker opening was retooled in Bride of Chucky 1998.
Cool.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would have left that in.
Yeah, it would have explained a bit more, I feel like.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it still did, like, we still knew what happened to her. Like, they didn't leave us in the dark. So, but I do kind of wish they would have left that in. The good guy doll Tommy is named after the original Child's Play director Tom Holland. And
right.
Yeah, then the director John felt that the movie should primarily be shot from a child's perspective and more specifically from Andy and Chucky's perspectives. To achieve this effect, Lafayette employs very wide lenses, very low angles, bright colors, and a deep depth of a field, as he felt this was how the world looked to a child. Many have praised the childlike look of this film as being its most effective quality over the years.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What else? What other fun facts you got for me?
Well, that's basically it. I mean, I can read, there's 44 more.
No, it's okay.
So I could read all of them. Oh, all of Brad Dourif's voiceover work for Chucky was recorded in advance so they can match up Chucky's mouth with the words. Because of this and his human form being dead, Dourif really rarely appeared on set. Instead, recordings of his voice would be played back for Alan Vincent to go by.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to help probably like cut production costs and stuff and get things right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder how they did line all that up. Is that all? And then, well, yeah, thank you for the fun facts. What are your takes on the movie?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to get through. Like, I did think it was like a little slow at the beginning, but talking back through it, I was like, I guess there were some deaths. They just weren't very eventful to me.
Yeah.
But I appreciate, like, I'm assuming that was a reference to Black Christmas, with the bag over the head.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate things like that. But yeah, and I think Alex Vincent did a great job again, like portraying a completely traumatized little boy. The rest of the acting, like Kyle did a good job. There wasn't anything that like made me, and like Phil and why do I keep want to call her Lorraine? Janice?
Joanne.
I can't remember her name for the life of me. She did a great job, but like none of it like really like stood out to me.
Yeah.
Like it just was believable. So that's good, like baseline. Obviously, with acting, you want it to be believable. And they all did a good job of that. So I appreciated that. I will, just for some reason, I liked it, and I liked the deaths. I really loved the copy machine death and then the eyeball death. I thought those were freaking awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if like we had seen a Xerox death like that before that. So I don't know how original that is, but if like they were the inception of that, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I like it better than the first one or if I like it like about the same. It's not like I like it less by any means. I do think I liked the like police procedural like storyline in the first one a little bit better, I think. And like it had, like him coming back to kill Eddie or whatever his name was and everything, like that all made sense to me. But
more of a through line. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it felt like this one was a little more abstract with like Chucky's just a murderer and he's coming like I mean, I knew he was coming after Andy, but like
Well,
once
and
he
then
couldn't get in Andy's body, like why do you need to kill him? I guess 'cause he's
exactly.
dead, but
Even then, like not being able to get into his body, I was fully expecting at that point for like me to hear Andy's voice in Chucky. Like whenever he's
yeah.
looking at his hand and stuff, I kind of thought maybe like, but then somehow like, and like, it didn't work well enough to go back or they were going to do it again. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it was kind of like almost like they were getting to a climax and then they were just like scared. That almost makes sense, like all the way there. And so they were just like, you know what? No, we'll just do this instead. Um, but I don't do actually switch bodies.
Yeah. Sorry, the
Mhm.
screen kind of froze a bit, so it was a little hard for me to hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Um, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying.
Uh,
But yeah. So I think I'll probably end up giving it like a 4. Yeah. My original gut was like 3.5,
yeah,
but it was still really good. Like I don't have any reason to dislike it. So I think a 4.
I think that's fair. And between my
So
4 and
then
your 4, it's a 4
that's solid 4.
because we gave Chucky like 4.5, I think.
Yeah, 4.35 I think is what you gave it, a
3.25.
4.2 something, I gave it a 4.5.
Yeah. And yeah, you guys, that is Child's Play 2. Where we will lead into Child's Play 3, I'm not sure because I haven't seen any of them, so I don't even know where we're going to be going with it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to look it up. Like, I just kind of want to be surprised.
Yeah, no, me too. I never seen 2 or 3.
I
So,
think this
I
next
think I've
one's the one
seen
about the
Bride of
military too.
Chucky.
hmm
So, I think I've seen Bride of Chucky, but I've not seen 2 or 3. So, this was a completely new experience for me, and then so will 3 be.
So will 3B.
So will 3 be.
It rhymed. The power of 3 will set you free.
With our forces combined, powers combined.
But yeah, you guys. Anything else we need to add? Do? No, we already know what we're going to cover next week.
Yep, we'll be
Moving
covering
forward today.
Child's Play 3.
If you haven't listened to last week's, excuse me, please check it out.
Yeah, listen to our Child's Play 1 original Chucky
Mhm.
episode. And then, as always, we're being hosted by the lovely Rogue Media Network Studios. They always take great care of us. You can listen to us and all the other amazing podcasts that they have. They've got a whole bunch of them. You can do so all in one central place, and that is at their website.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
That's right. And then if you want to listen to us or any of those podcasts, you can do so on a slew of podcasting platforms, but the biggest two would be
Spotify.
and also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to let us know your thoughts on Child's Play 2, if you liked it better than 1, because I did read some reviews that were like, this is so much better than the first one.
Yeah.
And so like if you are one of those people who agrees, if you liked it the same, kind of like we did, or if you liked it more or less, let us know on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
BooBaes Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES Podcast, because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right. And I guess that's all.
So until next time.
Until
bye,
next
baes.
time, you guys. Bye, baes.
BooBaes.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.